Well, hello everyone. Welcome in to Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. Boy, I'll tell you what, that program is really gaining a lot of momentum. So many people have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. And they're not only Jehovah's Witnesses, but people that never were Jehovah's Witnesses. Relatives, friends, schoolmates have all been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower if they knew a Jehovah's Witness as a close friend. Well, anyways, I'm glad you're with us. We do have a number of programs coming up tonight, but let's get Anne Marie on here right now. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick.
Well, there you go, Anne Marie. So you're sounding super snappy tonight. I mean, it looks like you're in a good mood. You're ready to roll for your program, are you?
Well, I sure am.
So what we going to be talking about tonight? What's on the slate?
Well, my brother, I'm hoping I'm remembering correctly, you with all the great ideas. If I remember correctly, we agreed upon the idea of what is the one thing that you think of the most that you benefited from leaving Watchtower? Like, what's the biggest benefit to you personally, or what stands out to you personally as a benefit from leaving Watchtower? That kind of
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. So in other words, there's plenty of people that have left the Jehovah's Witness religion, Watchtower organization as it is, and their life has been enhanced. And I know they'll probably want to talk about it here tonight. It seems like a very good subject. Seems like it's, I get things I could talk about and how my life has been enhanced. And everyone listening to this program tonight, I'm sure your life has been improved, enhanced, got better since you left the Watchtower. Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, my brother. So do we start the show, or are you going to give us any updates on how you and Susan are doing? Because you are such a busy man.
Well, I like being busy. I don't like being stagnant. I like to move around, Anne Marie. I'm not happy unless I'm doing something. I've been working all this week, of course, on the 6 screens, but also I have a regular job too. I'm in the sign business and doing a lot of signs as of late. And so it's good. I like to be busy, and but I have to tell you what, I've been putting a lot more effort into these programs, and the reason is it's growing like crazy. Our numbers are going way, way up. More and more people are coming in, and it's simply because there's more and more people that are leaving the Watchtower, Anne Marie.
Well, it's so blah. I mean, what new light really is there? I mean, when I heard that they not only downsized the Awake and the Watchtower, but that they're reprinting old literature. I mean, my God, that's like refusing to cook for your family anymore, maybe once a week when you used to cook 7 days a week. And then every other, day or so, you're giving them food that's rotten from 2 weeks ago that should have been thrown out.
Well, you're right with
What's
that.
that about?
Well, I know what it's all about. It's because what they're trying to do, Anne Marie, that they have made so many mistakes in the past, that they have said so many things concerning prophecy, for example, that never came to fruition. They've mentioned so many things in Watchtower and Awake articles that were complete craziness. And now it's all coming home to roost. I think they're scared to death to say too much more about anything. I mean, they have hit so many problems with their old literature. They're trying to get it off the shelves in the Kingdom Halls. They're taking it down on their Watchtower site, the digital files. They're just in a real pickle. So I think until they can really get their act straight, they're going to really keep cutting back on literature and publications of all types.
Yeah, I remember in the old days, they used to have what they called the Watchtower or the Kingdom Hall Library, and you could go in there and look stuff up all over the place. And then, I think, was it in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, they started taking them down because just like the brothers did at Bethel, they started thinking, something's wrong. 1975, all that hoopla and hype, and it never happened. And they started like, well, what are you looking at that for? I remember one sister said she was in the library and an elder came walking in and said, what are you doing? said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm reading a book. Well, what are you doing that for? That's old literature. That's old life. What are you getting that for? And little by little, it almost became an apostate gesture to read old literature. And it's like, and now they want you to get rid of it all, and they can't. They have tried so many times to fix stupid, and the more they try to fix stupid, the more convoluted their truth is. And I know, I say that with quotes. And I was just listening to an old show, and excuse me, and when they were talking about reprinting old literature, and then heard some brother come on one of your shows, Rick, and he was talking about how in Cedar, it wasn't Cedar Point, Ohio, wherever Rutherford gave the million stock. I'm sure he gave it in more than one place, but he said, this particular brother said that he had given it in 1918 in California somewhere. And then I just remember the Millions campaign, and you had at one show, you were holding up a reproduction of the original Millions campaign book, which I have, and you can clearly see it's just an enlarged reprint, not not something that somebody made up. But I just remember reading all about how all of the brothers were out there with the sound cars going up and down the streets with their big, huge blasting microphones, telling everybody to get into the organization before it was too late. Armageddon was coming. And a lot of these brothers and sisters were homeless. They were in JW camps. Remember that, Rick?
Oh, yeah.
Actually in jail. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, all of that. It's all coming back. I mean, but the Watchtower, they right now, they don't know what to do. They are being picked on by countries. They are being investigated by Pennsylvania and other states in this country. They are in a real bind. And that's why I don't think they're putting too much time into, writing new articles. They have to write some, but they're not really the prolific writers like they were in the past. So we're seeing some real changes. And tonight, Anne Marie, I'll tell you what, coming up at 9:30 tonight, we have a man coming on. His name is Donald Brown. And he got a hold of me in the last couple of weeks. He wanted to come on and talk about his understanding of Jehovah's Witnesses. And he's writing a book right now. And he sent me the book. And I'll tell you some of the things I've never really thought about much, but this guy nails it. He's coming on tonight. It's really worth a listen to when he comes on at 9:30. He's going to be on at 9:30 tonight.
Wow, this is going to be new material, huh?
Well, he's giving us information that, I've examined Watchtower information for many years, but what he does, he uses great analogies. He likens the Jehovah's Witnesses to the North Korean regime. And some of the things he says, I'll tell you, he nails it. He's on the ball, yeah.
In Lifton's book, he does too. The Lifton's book from 1967 or whatever.
That's right. They use the same tactics, but some of the things, I don't want to spill the beans too much, but some of the things he said, I really like the way he articulated it. So he's coming on tonight. He'll be on tonight. It's going to be wonderful. Yeah.
So that's 9:30 Eastern time?
Yeah, 9:30 Eastern time, Eastern Daylight Time. Yep.
Okay.
New York time.
Okay.
So anyways,
I like that you said.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it's just that when you said, I believe it was you that said that he kind of compares Watchtower to the North Koreans or whatever. They are totally following the communist agenda. It's all about the party. It's all about loyalty to the party. We will tell you what to think. We will tell you what to believe. You just keep in step with the party. You just listen and obey, and always obey without question. And don't forget, above all, you had better remain loyal or else.
You're right. And I'll tell you, Anne Marie, if I ever had an opportunity to go to Washington before a Senate subcommittee and talk about the evils in the Watchtower, I'd bring this guy along with me. I would bring this guy, Donald Brown, with me. This guy, he could really expose how close they are, if not communist, really.
Oh, no doubt. So, Rick, my brother, do you think that Don. His name is Don.
Donald Brown. Yep.
Do you think that he would? He's going to have a show, maybe?
I don't know. It's a little premature for that, but he's coming on my program tonight. Yeah. Yep. But he's gonna he's coming he's coming on your program tomorrow too. He's a Christian man. He became a Christian and he wants to, so he's coming on your program as well. Yep.
No way! I get to have him all to myself.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Well, well, I got him all. I got him all lined up for your program tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much, my brother. Okay, everybody, I just want to welcome you all in to Six Screens Saturday, my total favorite day. And today is May 6th. Happy Cinco de Mayo to anyone who celebrated yesterday. I think that's an important holiday. It is for me anyway. And this is the first show of Six Screens Saturday for this Saturday. It's touched by the tentacles of a watchtower. And as Rick earlier mentioned, you know, not everyone who was touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower was actually a member or a believer of Watchtower. Because if you were a faithful member of Watchtower, your family and your friends, maybe your coworkers, maybe people at school that you went to school with, were also touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. Because you know what? We were weird. I know I sure was. So anyway, I want to welcome everyone in, and the theme that Rick and I decided on for today's show, Touched by the Tentacles, is, you know, I think it's important to me, is what is one thing that stands out to you as a benefit from leaving Watchtower? Like some people say, hey, I decided I was going to get an education, or, you know, I decided I was going to marry who I wanted to marry, or whatever. I know what it was for me, but I want anyone right now, if something pops into your head, I would love it if you would hit *6 and share with us what you think for yourself personally was a big benefit that stands out to you when leaving that cult. Anyone would like to share? *6.
Well, I'll be the icebreaker if you like, Anne-Marie.
Well, you know I always love listening to you, my brother.
Yeah. So sometimes we have to break the ice and then we get some other people coming in. But, you know, when I think about it, I often think this, it was a chore being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. It was a job. It wasn't like, you know, being a Christian and going to church. That's not a job. That's a pleasure. That's an exciting experience you would have. You go to church, you sing, you have real good, genuine fellowship. But being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, it wasn't a good experience. It was a job. And your boss would tell you you were never doing enough. So even a beautiful day like today up here in New England, you'd have to be up in the morning, get your kids all ready. You know, they want to sleep and they go to school. They want to sleep and have a day off and do things. But geez, you have to get them all ready, polish their shoes up, dress them up, put them in the car, take them down to the meeting, and then you know, for a meeting for field service. Then you'd stay out till about 1 o'clock or so, and then you come home. You're so blasted tired from walking halfway around the world through all these neighborhoods that you're tired. You couldn't really do too much, but it was a chore. Then you had household duties you had to get done. The lawn had to be cut. You had to take care of painting certain parts of your house and what have you. But how could you even do it with all the work the Watchtower put on you? So I it's like a chore was removed. It's like having a second job and not having to have it anymore. Gave you way more time, way more freedom. And what a joyful thing it is this morning. Like this morning, for example, I got up and it was so beautiful. I said, geez, I'd like to just take a ride down to McDonald's. I'm serious. Usually I cook breakfast, but I said, geez, I want to just get out of the house this morning. You couldn't do that. How could you take a ride down to McDonald's and get breakfast and run back home, try to eat it and run back down to the service meeting? You couldn't do it. So that's what I feel like a free man, Anne-Marie.
Oh, we really are free. And even the scriptures talk about freedom in Christ. And one of my favorite scriptures is 2 3:17, New World Translation. Now Jehovah is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom. And we were never free in Watchtower. We weren't free to just going to the meeting and staying in and maybe popping some popcorn and watching a movie with your kids and your wife and your pajamas. No, you have to go to the meeting. You have to put Jehovah first. We weren't free to just decide on a Saturday morning we were going to sleep in and luxuriously get up when we felt like it and drag our pillow and our blankets to the living room with maybe a bowl of cereal that's bad for you, like sugar pops and sugar smacks, and let your kids just sit there and watch TV and all their favorite cartoons. No, you have to go out and service. You have to put Jehovah first. It was misery, and then you had the added guilt of feeling guilty because you didn't want to do it, but you had to do it. Now you had to feel guilty, the added guilt of remembering that you're supposed to be the happiest people on the earth because you're so blessed. You have the truth. You're in Jehovah's organization. Oh my goodness. So I think freedom is wonderful. To me, freedom is the biggest word. Anybody want to pop in? I'm just talking to talk. And Rick, you said it so well. It was like a chore. Go ahead, my brother.
Anne Marie, this is Stephen. I just wanted to let you know I'm on YouTube and I can barely hear you. I can hear Rick extremely clear when he was talking about Donald Brown in the book and all of that. And you were clear, and then all of a sudden you just got cut in half. And I couldn't even understand what the theme of your program is today. I just wanted to let you know that.
Well, I'll check it right out now, Stephanie.
Okay.
Let me check it out now.
Yeah.
What's going on? I'll make sure.
And again, that's YouTube, not the phone. YouTube.
Okay, but you can hear me, all right, Stephen?
Yeah, I can hear you. I could hear you all along. It was Anne Marie. She was cleared, and all of a sudden she got cut in half, and I could barely hear her. But you've been at the same volume level, and you're very clear. It was just Anne Marie,
all right.
only on YouTube.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Let me just check that, Anne Marie, right now, and check the volume. Okay, volume is good here. Let me.
Back to YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna. Well, thank you, Stefan. Anne Marie, give me a count to 5 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right, let's go with that. I think that might be a little better. I'm going to check it. I'll go in the other room. I got a computer going in there, and I'll check it there myself. But go ahead, continue with the program. Yep.
Well, thank you, my brother. Stephen, I hope my voice is better. Is there an echo? The theme is, Stephen, or for anybody that didn't hear, it's for you personally, what stands out as basically the most benefit or the biggest benefit that you feel you experienced or obtained from leaving the Watchtower cult? If anybody would love to share, I would love that. A lot of people say freedom. Some people say, like I said before, they felt free to get an education. Some people said, you know what, I've always wanted to smoke. I'm going to smoke. Or I've always wanted to hang out in the bar and just have fun and play pool and drink beer, and that's what I'm going to do. Just, the freedom to make your own choice. For me personally, it hit me like a ton of bricks in the living room a few days after I left the Watchtower. It suddenly occurred to me, if I was one of those over indoctrinated, totally zealous, what will the elders think, what will sister pioneers think, or brother arrogant think, it suddenly hit me that I could think for myself and I could deduce for myself. I could make my own choices for myself, and I had the privilege or the ability to do it without fear. I didn't have to worry anymore about somebody dragging me in the back room to ask me, why did I do this or why did I do that? I mean, I was engaged to a brother once, and then he dumped me because he got tired of me. I had to go to the health food store, and the place of his business was in the same shopping center, and I parked in between where I was going and where he worked because that was the available parking space. And it just so happened that when I got back into my van, I was very depressed, and his place of business was way over to my right, not even that close. But later, I got dragged into the back room because somebody reported that I was stalking the brother who dumped me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, they saw you on a certain day at a certain time, and you were staring at his place of business. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then it suddenly hit me. Oh wait, I was going to the health food store, and I'm like, excuse me? Okay, maybe I was a little depressed, and I sat there for a little while. And they said, well, his coworkers saw you staring at him. They actually hid him in the back room because they thought I was going to come into his place of business and start causing a scene. This is how absolutely insane Watchtower people can be, because this brother reported this incident to the elders, and the only reason his co-workers acted that way is because he fed them a big line of what a crazy person I was, and I didn't even do anything. Like, what? I'm just trying to go day by day being a good Jehovah's Witness, because that was always my focus. I did not want Jehovah to be upset with me. I wanted to please Jehovah. I really did. And it was amazing, the gossip. So to suddenly realize after I was put out of Jehovah's organization, or the Watchtower, when I realized, oh my God, it's like all of a sudden I realized nobody really was controlling me anymore. Nobody, it didn't matter what anybody said, or I could make my own choices. And it was like the most giddy feeling. It's like all of a sudden you have your first apartment and your own bank account and your own job, and nobody can tell you what you have to do or how to put your furniture or when you have to get up or when you have to be home. It was like, for me, awesome. And all these years later, every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, that's the coolest thing. I don't have to worry about what anybody thinks. Nobody can get me in trouble. Nobody can do anything. Anybody want to share what their personal feeling of benefit is from leaving that controlling, mind-controlled, tyrannical cult? Star 6?
Hi, Anne-Marie. It's Stefan again. Just to let you know, you sound great on YouTube now. And then I think for me, now I know what the program's about. I think for me, it was this feeling of an immense weight having been lifted off of me once I stopped being a witness. And it was the weight of, as you know, constantly having to do and do more and do better and jump higher, trying to achieve some level of approval, both by humans, which we shouldn't have been doing in the first place, and God, only to find out God didn't ask us to do any of that. That was all Watchtower. And then, as you said, the ability to just kind of dictate your own life and live a life of freedom. I think for me, just that weight. I have a family member who's a witness, and she said to me not too long ago, Jehovah is so angry with me because she didn't go out and fill service that day. So that's the kind of craziness that we allowed ourselves to get brought into, that once we give that up, that weight is off of us.
Wow, Stephan, I thank you so much for sharing that and what you said about your family member actually feeling that God was angry with her. You know, that is such a sad thing. We were told that, you know, Jehovah loved us and he was a loving God and he wanted to prepare a beautiful paradise for those who loved him and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But yet we were always afraid that the hammer would come down on us. I'll never forget going out in service with an elderly sister who had diabetes. And we were walking up to the store, and I noticed she was walking with more and more effort. And just as I was about to ring the doorbell, I said, "Sister, are you okay?" And she said, "Oh, it's just my legs hurt so much. My legs hurt." And I said, "Sister, what are you doing out in service? You should be home, you know, in your recliner with your feet up. Why are you out in service?" And she looked at me with the most sad eyes. And she said, "Because I'm hoping Jehovah will remember me." And I'm like looking at her going, are you seriously kidding me? Jehovah loves you. He doesn't want you to suffer in pain. And I didn't understand. I didn't understand that. But, you know, I've heard more and more people doing more and more because they were afraid Jehovah was mad at them. Any comments? Stephan, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, hello, Anne-Marie.
Yes, my brother. How are you, Ken?
Oh, not too bad. Kind of a little stiff and achy, but I'm doing not too bad. I just got out. I've been putting in the last couple of days. I've been kind of busy and everything, but I just keep going here one day at a time. So we hope that there's going to be some improvements down the road. So, okay, I've been listening to your program here with interest and everything like that. And regarding this last comment, I appreciate this caller coming in here and appreciate the story about their God being so angry. I mean, whatever. Watchtower Society claims they are the representative of the true God. And if they were to do their homework and read what their book says, that their God is slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness. But now we find that God is so very angry because this lady has got sore feet and can't go in service. Can't go out in service. That doesn't make any sense. So, if anybody makes sense out of it, I appreciate you letting me know, but I can't understand it. The next thing I want to comment on right now is regarding the most people that I talk to, and especially the one that one guy I took the documentary from. Most people that get out of the Watchtower Society, they find a sigh of relief there. They find a big burden lifted off their shoulders and so forth, and they understand things like they never did before, and their eyes have opened to reality like it's never done before and so forth, because truthfully, the Watchtower Society dumbs everybody down, period. They bring everybody right down, dumb everybody right down to the ground here with their, total and absolute insanity religious doctrines. And so it's a sigh of relief to get out of them. Now, I'm not an ex-witness. I never been there, but they used to come to my house and everything like that, and I was quite a bit involved with them, But as far as I'm concerned, if they don't come around anymore, well, no love lost, and silence is golden when I don't hear them anymore. So that's the way I feel about them. And I think that my friend feels the same way too. So, and like there's a big burden that's lifted off your shoulder when you get away from the Watchtower Society, because the only thing they'll do is they'll drag you right down to nothing. It's just like we've been talking about this right and left here, just like the other doctrines that's coming about, back and forth. The Christianity church teaches, and their spiritual leaders teach, that the church will be built and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. But the Watchtower Society says that the vast majority of people here on earth is going to be killed. That's just totally preposterous. So
exactly. Well, at least we're free not to have to believe something that doesn't make sense. And I remember, I know you said that you were never actually a member of the Watchtower, but your friend or your neighbor was, and you used to let the witnesses. You used to talk to them, and you were very nice to them, and you used to let them park, near you or whatever. You were always cordial and friendly. And I forgot what happened. I don't know what your friend got, disfellowship or something.
Well, the fact is that I was, he had a falling out with them, and he wanted to go and talk to them and try to resolve it. And he took me over as a personal representative, and they were rude. They couldn't have been more rude. They were rude to him, and they're rude to me, and so forth. And I finally told him, I says, there was a time you were welcome at my place, but you're not welcome there anymore. And so they haven't been around, and I don't miss them one bit. So they did come around a few times, but I just refused to talk to them. And they come around a few times to talk to other family members, but they didn't come to see me anymore, of course.
That's when we sooner or later figure out that all that friendliness and love, and they're always so sincere. And in fact, when they are fake at the door, they're actually very sincere in their fakeness. Because I went door to door all the time, and I've opened the door to many witnesses when I would be at my friend's house. Somehow the witnesses would always show up at my friend's door, and they were always so sweet. And, oh, hi, how are you? We're just in your neighborhood today sharing the word of Jehovah God. And did you know that God has a name and whatever? And they were just so sweet. And, you could feel that they weren't being fake, but yet those same people are trained to turn as cold as ice to their own mother, their own grandmother, their own grandfather, their own child, their own husband or wife, just cold as ice. And it's scary. And to me, no matter what, I get to be completely honest, and I get to say exactly what I think. I don't want to be rude, but I love not having to worry about upsetting sister whoever. Like, one sister came to my house, and she was the sister of the wife of an elder, and everybody kind of felt sorry for her because her elder husband was a total asshole. I'm sorry. It's in the dictionary. It's a word. He was a jerk on crack. And this poor sister, her name was Ruth, she wanted children so badly. And her husband hated kids. And so she was watching year after year other women, sisters having babies. And I'll never forget, she came to see me for some reason one time. And somehow the subject came up about my children, because they not only gossip about me, but people would say rude, rotten things about my children. And I'm not kidding you. My children were sweet, very sweet-natured, very kind, very helpful. They never caused problems in the Kingdom Hall. They were always very polite and friendly. And I couldn't understand that I would overhear about somebody making a snide remark about one of my kids. And I remember the subject somehow came up, and I remember I kind of lost it. Well, I was in my own home. I kind of lost it. And I just was like so angry, because my children were just such sweet children. They really, really were. And I just said, I don't care what anybody thinks. I am thankful for my children. I love my children, and I am grateful for my children. And as I'm going on, I could see her starting to kind of quiver, her little chin start to quiver, and I see her eyes red, and then I saw a tear, and I thought to myself, oh my God, she's cold. She's starting to cry. And I said, are you all right? She's like, I'm okay. And I'm like, oh crap, and why should I feel fear? I made an elder's wife cry. Oh no. And at first I was like, I felt bad. I didn't know what I had done for her to cry. But then my next thought was, uh-oh, another thing I'm going to get hauled in front of the elders for. And sure enough, I got in big trouble. She went crying to her husband. Her husband, elder asshole, went to the other elders and told them that if they didn't straighten me out, that he was going to do it for them and they wouldn't like it. So I got called in front of the elders because I made his wife cry. Why?
Yeah, well, I guess what you need to do then is there's a song that's called the Crying Song. Just dedicate that to her, I guess. And the next thing is, I don't, myself, if the Watchtower Society gets upset over me, I don't care. I hope they have a Bailox moment. As a matter of fact, I hope their pants catch on fire. Matter of fact, I hope there's a baptism of the Holy Spirit so strong in the U.S. that their pants will catch on fire. So if I make them cry or make them feel bad, it doesn't hurt my feelings a bit, because look at all the harm they've done to somebody. Look at all the people that they have harmed and caused to commit suicide and everything like that. Irreparable harm they've done to people. Well, like Mr. Farron uses the term, they've spiritually abused people so much that they don't even want anything to do with religion anymore. Well, I guess the statistics show that 3/4 of the people who left the Watchtower don't connect with any other religion anymore. Only about 1/4 of them do. So, yeah, that's horrible the way they act.
Well, the only reason I brought that up, Ken, and thank you for that commentary, the whole point was not to put poor sister down. I mean, I thought about it later, and I realized it was this poor woman. I mean, she was being denied the right to have a child by her own husband, who should have loved her enough to, But what I'm pointing out is how tyrannical, even down to the tiniest minute split atom of a detail, that you had to worry about everything you said, how you said it, every word you used. the tone, the expression, because in the back of your mind, you never know who's going to get offended. That was basically my whole point. Yes, go ahead. Thank you, Ken. Go ahead, dear.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take the next caller.
Hi, I just had a couple of examples of the Watchtower tyranny that my daughter went through. She was a pioneer, really good JW, but she loved Star Trek, and she went to see a Star Trek movie that was rated R. And there was this girl in the congregation, an elder's daughter, who was like this little spy watching everybody. And she saw my daughter and a bunch of her witness friends coming out of the movie. And she went to an elder and told him that they were in an R movie. And he got a hold of my daughter and he shoved a pad and pen at her and said, yelled at her, "I want names." As far as who attended the movie. And the other one was my daughter spent a day at the beach in New Jersey.
Wait. Not so fast. Not so fast. Go back to when they shoved a pen and a pad in her and told her they wanted names? Is this a good cycle?
And
what happened?
my daughter came to me and she says, "I'm not giving them my friends' names." And I said, "Don't worry about it." But they were very she was, so evil because, and she gave her fiance's name because he didn't care one way or the other. And so that was the only one she gave. But, she was just like, I don't know who else was with us. She just wouldn't. She didn't want to rat on them, and I told her not to worry about it.
My God, these people are off the hook too much.
Yeah.
You know what? My husband was listening to you, and he was running off the names of Santa's reindeer. I want names. He said, "Well,
yeah.
They wanted names." Oh my God, they are just insane. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but oh my God, I always think I've heard it all. They are so arrogantly obnoxious.
Yeah, she told me she was trying not to laugh because this guy acted like, and it was weird. He used to visit this married woman all by himself quite a bit. I think something was going on, and her husband, right after her husband died, and he just kept going over there. But anyways, the other instance was my daughter spent the day at the beach with a bunch of JW friends again, and they didn't eat all day. They were out at the beach, and so they went. She was 21. She just turned 21, so she was allowed to have alcohol. So this was new for her. So she goes to a restaurant with everybody. And the waitress said, "Would you like a cocktail before dinner?" And so she's thinking, "Yeah, let me get one of those things with the umbrella in it, right? One of those fancy drinks." So she gets the drink and she has a little bit of it, and it hits her because she's outside all day and she hasn't eaten. And so she makes the comment, "Ooh," she said, "I should have eaten first." And so she stops drinking it and she puts it on the side. And of course, the little spy was with them. And so she goes to the elders and said that my daughter was drunk in public. and she was called in for that.
Oh my God, please tell me your daughter is long out of that disgusting little preschool cult. They're all like little preschoolers.
Sadly, she is such an exemplary JW still. She married a Bethelite, and that was the guy that was with her at the movie. But yeah, she's still in. We had hopes, but yeah, she's still in there. Yeah. So I just thought I'd give you those examples of Watchtower tyranny because I thought that they were pretty ridiculous.
You think?
All right, thank you, Anne Marie. I'll give it over.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart. Well, come up with some more. I know you have some more stories. Oh my goodness. I got in trouble because I was so happy I found the perfect little dress for my daughter. And it was the only dress, and it was a beautiful dotted blue Swiss dress that almost was identical to my dress that I have when I was a year old. And I just happened to find it at this discount store that was the only dress there, and it was on clearance. I think it was like $12. And I had been at that store right before I came home to dress for the Thursday night meeting. So at the meeting, you know, I always like to come early so I could fellowship. And, you know, oh, hi, Anne-Marie, how are you today? How was your day? Oh, fine. I was so excited. I told the sister about how happy I was I had found this dress and why it was so important to me. I swear to God, after the meeting, I got called in front of the elders. Yeah. Okay. That's my fun. Anybody have any story to share? Yes.
I would like to share something with you.
Okay, well, can the brother go first, and will you wait, and is that okay with you, sister?
Of course, of course.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, brother.
Hi, Anne-Marie. I'm phoning from the United Kingdom. I listened to your program last week on download. It was about, I think, your experience.
Brother, I can barely hear you. I don't know if it's me, but is there any way you could up your volume or come closer to the mic? I can hardly hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, I need to speak up. I'm English. I'm quiet. Sorry. I listened to the program, and you were talking about Jehovah's Witnesses in hospitality situations, and it made me laugh. I laughed out loud. I have an experience. I have an experience. I wonder, could I share that with you tonight?
Oh, please, brother. I am all ears.
Okay, well, I'll keep it as brief as I can. Number one, I'm 58 years old now, and I left Watchtower when I was 17 during my baptism questions, so I was never baptized. Okay, so and when I did that, that was a big deal. That was in the early 80s, and it caused mayhem. I mean, it was, and I knew it would. It was like a bomb. And what I didn't realize, because things aren't the same now, back then, I think when you were 16, 17, I don't know, a bit more naive perhaps, I don't know. But what I didn't bank on was that my siblings would become so devout. So as time has moved on, my siblings, they've never spoken to me since the age of 17. My mother and my father, they maintained contact, but they were disappointed. Okay. So here's a story. In 2014, bear in mind, I hadn't spoken to any of my siblings since the 80s. My mother passed away, and my father passed away a long time since. My mother passed away, and minutes before she passed away, she phoned me. She phoned me to tell me she was dying. Now, she didn't phone my two eldest brothers, one of whom's a circuit overseer, and she didn't phone my eldest. I'm the youngest, by the way. She phoned me because she knew I was the only one that would pick up the phone because they were all so busy. You know what I mean when I say that. Yeah, so my mum passed away in 2014, which meant that all the members of the family came down to my mum's home address in England. And I suddenly found myself with a sense of, I don't know if this is the right word, power, because I was the only person there when my mother passed away. This is the only time that these people, they needed me. And so, but I've been so negated by these people for all of my life. There's no even over a bereavement, there's no way I was going to let them take advantage of me. So here's the story. So there's the backdrop. So I suggested, because I do respect their belief, by the way. I don't respect how they go about it, but I respect people's belief. So I suggested, after all the formalities of, you know, my mum being rushed to hospital and blah, 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 that we get together, because I knew they didn't want to speak to me. We get together in a restaurant, which, I'm laughing already, which they all knew from their childhood, right? On the side of a river, very, very nice, just a normal kind of British pub bar restaurant, where we could discuss what had taken place, because obviously it was the end of my mother and father's life, so there were obviously legal things. It was a neutral ground. They all agreed. So here's the story. I'll make it brief. They all appeared, and they arrived at this this venue, and so we ordered food, and my brother, who's a sick over, sat down, and the first thing he said was, "Who's paying for the meal?" That's the first thing he said. He didn't ask me how I was. He didn't ask me if I was happy. Who's paying for this meal, right? And I said, well, don't worry about that.
Are you okay?
I booked it. Yes, can you hear me?
I hear you. I just want to make sure you're okay.
No, I'm fine. So I said, we should just pay for ourselves, perhaps. So anyway, we ate the meal, and this lovely young lady served us. And I thought about you from last week when you talked about serving Jehovah's Witnesses. This wonderful young woman served us, served our food, very polite. And we had a discussion. It was quite fraught. So I've got an elder to my left, a circuit overseer in front of me, and my sister to the right, who's a pioneer. They're all much older than me. At the end of it, once we'd eaten the food, I could see they weren't very happy. So my brother, the circuit overseer, asked for the bill. So the bill came, and he looked at the bill, and he said, we'll split the bill. And here's where it went funny. So my sister, who, by the way, is only an 8 out of 10 Jehovah's Witness, I know that she truly is, she's troubled by a few things, and she's more caring, but then I think the women generally are, if you don't mind me saying that. So my two brothers, they worked out they only owed, it was like 25 or 30 pounds, let's call it dollars. So they threw some money onto the table. Now, bear in mind, both of them are very wealthy. Okay, they're both moneyed. Even my secret overseer brother, they've got money, right? My sister, who has no money, your typical female Jehovah's Witness sister, she's a cleaner, so she has no money. She put more on the table than was needed because she wanted to tip the girl. She wanted to leave a tip, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Right. Well, no, we don't tip as often as Americans do. It's Britain. Tipping isn't quite as a comfortable thing, but we do, right? So I came to throw my money on the table, but my brother Jeff, I just said his name. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But my second overseer brother, he noticed that my sister put more money than she needed to, so he picked it up and he gave it her back, and he said, "You don't need to give this." And she says, "No, I'm leaving it for the waitress." And he said, "Why?" He said, well, it's a tip." He said, No, you don't need to do that."
Are you kidding me?
No, it gets better. Anne-Marie, you're going to love it. I've had very few successes with my family, and this is one of them. And they both went to leave the table, because this is the thing that my brothers do. When they finished, they go. They don't worry about who else is sitting around the table. No, I've had enough. I'm off. So they wandered off. So my sister got up to go as well. So I left some money and a tip. And I just thought, do you know what? You guys because I knew what it meant. It's kind of like, she's not a Jehovah's Witness, the waitress. Why would you want to tip it? Pay the bill. Let's go. Yeah. Let's not leave any money. So I walked out and I walked up the steps to the car park, and I parked near my sister's car, and my two brothers were sharing the same car. And I have to walk past my two brothers. This is, by the way, the last time I ever saw them. I haven't seen them since. And I know that as I walk past them, except for the funeral, because the funeral hadn't taken place yet, and I knew they wouldn't speak to me during the funeral. I know that this is the last chance I'll get to speak to them. And as I walked past, I stopped by their car, and I said, I have to say, guys, I'm a little bit disappointed and surprised. And my eldest brother, the circuit overseer, turned and said, why is that? Because he called me by my name. Yeah. And I said, do you remember so-and-so when we were young, the elder of their congregation, blah, blah, blah? And yeah. You do realize that waitress is his granddaughter? And my eldest brother said, really? I said, yeah. She's the daughter of so-and-so. In other words, a Jehovah's Witness, right?
Oh, my God, you're kidding.
No, Anna-Marie, there's a twist. And he went, really? I said, yeah. You do realize, I mean, imagine that, a pioneer, a Jehovah's Witness, serving people food, and you couldn't even tip her. I walked off. Well, as I walked off, my eldest brother and my other brother, they both moved back into the restaurant. And I walked to my car, and my sister would walk with me, and she said, I don't remember that. I don't remember that elder. I don't remember his son having a daughter. I said, no, he didn't. I said, I know that. You know that. And those two Muppets are about to find out that. In other words, I lied. But it just demonstrated to me, the moment they thought that that girl that served us was a Jehovah's Witness, they ran down to say hello and give her a tip.
That is priceless. Priceless. Now that's what I call theocratic warfare. You want to say there's a good reason for lying? Because that just shows the hypocrisy of the... What's that?
Can I leave you with another thought? Another thought before I'm going to go, because I know you've got other listeners. That was in 2014.
Okay, go ahead.
My mother was a dedicated Jehovah's Witness. Although there was some caveats there. I know full well. And I've said this very often. My mother in her 80s had no choice. She couldn't have left Watchtower even if she wanted to, because at that age it would have been a catastrophe. But here's the thing, and I want your listeners to think about this. And the funeral took place with my mother, and it was a Jehovah's Witness funeral. And a couple of days later, bearing in mind who we're talking about here, we're talking about a circuit overseer, we're talking about an elder, and my sister, who's a pioneer, and they're all older than me. Who picked up my mum's ashes? I did. And where are my mother's ashes today? Where? I looked upstairs in my office. My mother's ashes are upstairs because not one member of my Jehovah's Witness family, my siblings, have bothered to ask me about my mother's ashes. And I know your next question is, so why haven't you kind of just, scattered your mother's ashes? Well, probably because I know the persecution of my family. And if I do anything I guarantee, if I scatter my mother's ashes, I'll get phone calls. What happened to mum's ashes? Da 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 da. So I've allowed lots of time, and the part of me that's waiting. I'm waiting for them to care, but they don't, because they've decided the moment my mother was cremated, it's gone. What's in the casket is not my mother, and they're right in a sense. There's no DNA, but surely there's a sense of care, duty, responsibility, even from an administration point of view, closing up loose ends. But no, because it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to these people, because she's going to come back. She's on her way back. The ashes are her mother. Well, the truth is, the ashes are her mother. Telling you one little final twist of this, I'm going to move on very quickly. Since my mother died, I found out that she had a half-brother that she didn't know about. So here's the good news. Next year, this year, on the 25th of July, her half-brother, who's not a Jehovah's Witness, that she didn't even know existed, is going to come over to the United Kingdom, and we're going to scatter her ashes together. Yes. So there's the story, Emily.
That is way off in left field that I never even thought of going. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you just made me realize I went to my father's cremation. I kissed him goodbye before they put him in the oven. I collected his ashes. I still have his ashes, and my two Jehovah's Witness brothers never even asked about them. So it just made me think about it. Yep.
So yeah, the same has happened to you.
Pretty much. And I didn't mean to cut you short, but I'm worried that sweet sister is still waiting.
No, I will leave you. And thank you for your time. Have a great evening from the United Kingdom.
You as well. I mean, don't go away. Don't go anywhere. I just want to know if sister, are you still there here? I was afraid she'd give up. Oh, brother.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Henry?
Yeah,
Henry,
go ahead.
Someone else.
This is that, and I just want to tell the gentleman that was just on that I really enjoyed his story, although it's unfortunate that he had to go through that. But that just reminded me of something, going back to your theme, that I'm glad to not have to deal with anymore. It just seems that Jehovah's Witnesses feel that they have a license to be able to do anything that they want to you, screw you over, talk about you, borrow money that they never had any intention on giving back, and anything else, any kind of oversight. And you're supposed to just forgive them because we're all brothers and sisters. And that's another thing that I'm glad that I no longer have to deal with. I bet you that every witness probably has a horror story of things that they had to go through at the hands of other witnesses, and they had to forgive them because that's what you do. So I'm glad to be out from under that.
Isn't it funny how the victim or the one that didn't do the dirty deed or the wrong or the affront or the mean thing, they're the ones that are always told they have to be forgiven?
Exactly. It's the victim who has to be the Christian. But it's never the Jehovah's Witness who says to himself, I'm supposed to be a Christian and not be doing these things so other people know they get done to you, and you're supposed to be the Christian and forgive.
Yeah. I think I know that well. I want to ask again, is that sister who was so graciously waiting, are you still there, dear? We would love to hear your story. Just want you to know we didn't forget you. Stephen, thank you so much for commenting on the brother's tale. That was a new one for me. Wow.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was something else. Well, do you want to expound anymore? I just want to make sure anybody wants to comment to feel free. But if if no one is waiting, then there is no reason not to continue. Anybody want to comment? Yes, go ahead. Here.
Eric, how are you? You there?
I'm right here, sweetie. I just muted for a second because somebody was making noise. Go ahead, dear.
Oh, I have a story to tell too, and maybe a comment on your subject. Excuse me.
Do tell.
But when I was getting reinstated, I was this fellowship and I was making meetings, and I guess I was doing a good job, whatever that means. But the presiding overseer at the time, I guess it's coordinator of the elders now, he always is a snappy dresser, and he smooth talker, and then he took me in the back of the Kingdom Hall where like the bathrooms are, and like there's like a water bubble, and he put his hand on my shoulder and with his pinky ring on, and he said, Eric, we know that you're trying to come back and you're doing a good job, and he wanted names as well, like that sister had mentioned. What he wanted names is that it had come out that my uncle was going to strip clubs, and a lot of other people who were married as well were going. And he wanted all the names of everybody that was there, because they knew that I had maybe been there, or my name was mentioned or whatever. So I gave him names, but I had already known who had gotten busted, and he's like, yeah, we already know that. I'm like, that's all I know. but I thought it was easy. What's that?
They always act like little Gestapo spies or something. It's what the fuck.
I agree. But I was going to say that when you leave Watchtower, it's going to hurt really bad, and you might never fully recover, but you will recover. Like, it could hurt you financially in so many ways. Lose your family and friends. It list goes on. But but you gain mental freedom, and you're not stuck in that hamster wheel with them. And you know what? Even if you don't think you are, you're becoming closer to a Christian than ever because of leaving that organization. They really it's like that association spoil useful habits, and you pull yourself out and become a better person, and most likely you're going to have a lot of self growth from the dogma that you were taught, in the organization.
Or you get to be your real self. You get to be your authentic self. You actually get to have an opinion. And it's, I hear people say all the time, I don't care what people think anymore. I personally always care what people think, but I don't let their opinion define me. This is the problem. They had us beat down so badly that we were always looking outside ourselves for our identity. Am I good enough? We were looking for approval. And it's like, am I good enough? Am I jumping high enough? Am I running fast enough? Am I going far enough? And everybody always had an opinion. I was told I talked too much. I didn't speak up enough. I was too nice. I was rude. I was over lenient with my children. I was too strict with my children. And I always thought that everybody else was spiritually mature, so that I thought they were actually speaking from Jehovah's Spirit to me. So I would try really hard to correct myself. I was going nuts. There was a period of time after I got out of the Watchtower that I actually, when I went out, and I was wearing I was young and cute. I was wearing my nice little tight jeans and my nice little boots and my nice little fur jacket, and I'd be out in public, and I'm like, just daring to run into somebody from the hall and just say something, give me a reason. And I'm thinking, why am I feeling this way? I was always so nice and so humble and so sweet. But, there was a part of me that had a real big F you to say, because I realized they had kept me in prison and I wasn't going to take it anymore. And it's that freedom, I think the freedom, because when we look back and we listen to each other's stories, it's like, how in the world were we so mentally captured and enslaved that we actually took it? Sometimes even thinking it was our fault. Anybody want to comment? Star 6. It's all about you. What do you love the best? What benefits do you feel is the most benefit for you from coming out of the Watchtower tyrannical mind control cult? Star 6. I'm all ears. You don't want to hear me keep talking. Anybody have a story or a thought or an idea? I mean, anybody ever missed the Watchtower? Go ahead, yes, dear.
Where do I start? This is Thomas Hodge.
You start wherever your heart is, dear.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I could say. I think just the freedom in itself is such a blessing. And I think the first thing I really felt like is, man, these people they claim they were so wicked, they're not like alien races. I can be friends with them now and do things with them and talk to them. And man, it's just like I got out of prison. For the first year, it felt really great. But I was in depression for several years after that. But then I kind of snapped out of it after a while. But when I got on the conference, man, I really started healing more. And I think one thing I could say is just being able to have the freedom to go into a church if you wanted to go, whether you wanted to go, you didn't have to go, or you didn't feel like you had to go. You didn't have somebody breathing down your neck. You could just, live your life the way you want to live it. I mean, you don't have somebody trying to, breathe down your neck and, Sarah, watch you. That's a blessing. But one thing is still a hardship. I still have to work because I really didn't, really strive for retirement. So it's just, that's really been kind of a hardship, but we'll get through it eventually. So, but yeah, there's just a lot to be said about it. You can enjoy the holidays if you want to. You don't have to, but you can enjoy them if you like. You don't have to worry about somebody reporting you because you celebrated a birthday or something. And the list goes on. But yeah, there's a lot of things to be said about that.
But the bottom line, no matter what the list is, it's all about when we realize we actually do have the freedom of choice. We have the freedom to choose. We have the freedom to stand up for ourselves. I never felt like I had the freedom to say, where do you think you get off treating me like that? You don't talk to me like that, and you don't talk to my children like that. It never even entered my mind. I just hung my head and took it. That's pretty bad. Anybody want to share a thought? Any benefits in your mind that you can think of from leaving the cult?
Anne-Marie?
Yes, my dear.
Stephen again. That story that you mentioned about how you hung your head when someone said something about your children, that reminded me of an incident I had asked to be when I was a kid. I'd asked to be on a part at the Circuit Assembly. And we all got on stage to do like a rehearsal. We're all dressed in our suits and everything. And the circuit overseer was like this drill sergeant. He was this older black circuit overseer, and he was like a drill sergeant. And he went behind every kid, and he was just kind of adjusting their clothes. And he got behind me, and he just hauled off and slapped me. And it was really loud, and it was all I could do to, hold back tears. And he got laid into me that my hair was too long. Now, mind you, this was a Saturday. I had just come from field service, went straight from field service to a barbershop. The barbershop was a witness barbershop owned by witnesses, and the barber who cut my hair was a witness, and in fact, he was an elder. And I had just left the barbershop and went straight to the rehearsal site. And he slaps me because my hair is too long. That was just cut by an elder. And so this site is about an hour away from where I live. And so I just got off the stage. I grabbed my little, field service bag and all of this. And I just started heading for the car. So we get to the car, and it's about an hour drive. And I am a 150,000% daddy's boy, as I say. Never was a mama's boy. Just a daddy's boy. Uncles, grandfather, that's who I always hung out with. In my family, they're very rough around the edges, I'll just put it that way. And so my mom was just in such fear because she knew I was going to go home, tell my dad that this grown man slapped me essentially for no reason, and it was going to be because my father was not a witness and could care less about witnesses. It was going to be hell in the city. And so when I got all the way home, I decided at the last minute, you know what? I'm not going to say a word because I know that my father's going to jump on this man. And if he, quote unquote, represents Jehovah, he's the anointed of Jehovah. I didn't want to do that. So that was the only reason I didn't say that. But when you mentioned that story about how you just took that, that made me think of what happened to me.
I can't believe he did that. But back in, they were so into beating up on children. May I ask how old you were? How old were you?
I was probably 12 or 13 years old.
That is such a bad age to be treated like that, because you're coming out of childhood and you're at the beginning of your growing into manhood, and to be treated that way in such a degrading way. Oh my God. I'm glad I wasn't
These
there.
people think that they are entitled to do anything that they want to you, and you're supposed to just sit there, like you said, and take it.
Yeah. But nobody ever walked up to any of my children and hit them either. I don't know what I would have done. I'm sure.
And I thought about that. I thought about that when I became a grown person and a parent, because I always wondered why my mom never said anything. Never said a word. And I couldn't imagine me allowing somebody. I have two daughters. Me allowing somebody to, do anything to my daughters in my presence. I mean, as soon as I found out about it, I'm going to address it. It could be midnight. I'm going right to that person and address it. But in my presence, never. So, unreal. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you said it. Thank you. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yep. And it's funny, they won't act that way toward all children. They do it to the ones they feel they can get away with doing it.
That's
it's
exactly
like
right.
the sister. It's like the sister they can pick on. Like the lowliest, the one who is lowest on the totem pole of the rung of hierarchy. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Is the single mother who's poor. That's the lowest one on the totem pole. And her kids will be the first ones to get picked on. And the last woman to not get picked on, last woman to get picked on would be an elder's wife, an elder in good standing. Like my little friend Ruth, who went crying to her husband. Oh, boy, you don't mess with her. He will tear you up.
Yeah. Yeah. And Anne-Marie, you're so right, because my father was a Jehovah's Witness for all of 5 seconds. I don't know if he realized it was BS and said, I don't know what the issue was, but he was a Jehovah's Witness for like 5 seconds. So technically, they like to call me what did they call me? There was some term, not an orphan. There was some term that they would call when you didn't have a fatherless boy. That's what it was. And I got into a big huff one day, and I told this brother, I said, I don't know who you keep calling a fatherless boy. I'm not a fatherless boy, because I got told I'm very close to my dad, my uncles, my grandfather, and they would always tell you, hey, we're a phone call away. I don't care where you are. You get into any kind of problem, call. One of us will be there. I said, I don't know who you keep calling a fatherless boy. I'm not a fatherless boy. I said, I can pick up this phone right now and show you how I'm not a fatherless boy. There'll be an army in this place. And so after that, it's so true. They used to pick on all of the ones who didn't have, both parents in the religion. And I remember one day because I was one of those little studious kids, and I kept going to the elder, these two in particular that seemed to run everything. I said, well, how come we can't hold the mic? And they would come up with some excuse. Oh, you got to be whatever age. And I get to the age. Well, I'm that age now. Oh, well, you have to have so many hours of service. I have that. Well, you got to da-da-da-da-da. I said, I have all that. Well, you're still not ready. And so one day it dawned on me. I said, you know what? I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. I said, I said, I'm going to go home and get my dad, and I'm going to bring him back at the next meeting, and you can sit down with all of us, and you can tell me why you keep saying that I can do something when I get to this point, and when I get to that point, then you keep changing it. Soon as I said I'm going to bring my dad, all of a sudden, well, no, you don't need to bring your dad. That's okay. That's okay. We'll talk.
Oh,
no,
what a what?
What? And then and it was only when I stood up that they started letting us kids do anything. Because after that, I should say before that, they wouldn't let us do anything. We couldn't hold the stupid mics. We couldn't do the stupid stage. We couldn't play the sound. None of that. But when I stood up to them, then all of a sudden they started putting all of us kids, on the schedule. But it was only when I stood up to them and threatened to bring my father up. And I could see them sometimes wanting to, like, turn the screws on me. But I guess in the back of their mind, it's like, you better leave this kid alone because he'll bring his dad, his uncle, and his grandfather up here, and it'll be a problem. But I would one that they wouldn't pick on, but they would still pick on the other quote-unquote fatherless boys.
You know what? Your story is such a perfect analogy for how it is and has been for thousands and thousands of quote-unquote fatherless boys or children that didn't really have parents who had the clout to stand up, because what it's all about is they love that feeling of power and control. And bottom line, they were immature, egotistical, tyrannical bullies.
That is exactly right. And just like any bully, when you threaten to bring somebody, they always cower and run away. And that's exactly what these guys would do.
Yeah, and then they try to cover it up like, oh, man.
Yeah, and when I sit back and think about all the time that I wasted, allowing myself to be bullied, it just makes me angry. And it's funny because every blue moon, I'll see that one brother in particular, and he came to me one day, and he said, "Oh, hey, how you doing tonight?" And I just kind of looked at him, and I said something kind of in passing. I didn't shake his hand. I didn't smile. I just kept right on walking. I'm like, if I say one thing, I'm probably going to go completely off. And you're going to be they're going to have to drag me off. Drag me away from this guy.
It would all come out,
exactly.
Huh? You would lay all this shit
it would
there.
all come out. Yeah.
Well, you had a lot more self-control.
And that brother, that one, when you said a Hitler and a controlling person, he was the epitome of that. He was short, and he was just a mean, nasty piece of work. And his wife left him. None of his kids remain Jehovah's Witnesses. None of his kids have anything to do with him except one son, and that's where he lives because he's never really held a real job. He was always doing some little handyman, what do they call it, general contracting. He was always doing that kind of thing. He never had like a real job. And so, of course, the kingdom didn't come or the end didn't come or whatever. So he didn't have anything, so he had to go and live with one son, but that's the only son that has anything to do with him. And that says a lot about the type of person you are. Your own family doesn't want to be bothered with you.
Wow. Well, I guess you could say there's a real home for immature, narcissistic, egotistic maniacs who never want to grow up and be responsible, but they want to bully and push other people around.
Yep. That's exactly right. That is exactly. And I went to college. I worked for a couple years, and I realized that was just a dead end to nothing. So I went to college, put myself through college. Nobody helped me. And I remember this one particular brother. He came up to me, and mind you, he's not anybody I talked to. And he said, "Yeah, I heard that you're at college." And I said, "Yeah." And I wanted to say, "Yeah, what is it to you?" But I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, well, you'll never be used in Jehovah's organization because you went against the society."
Oh,
and this is how he was. And true to form, Marie, I was never used. Never. And I don't know if they put something in my file. I don't know. I don't care whatever congregation I ever went to. Never was used for anything. So I don't know if that followed me. I to this day I don't know. But that's how nasty this brother was.
Well, that's almost as bad as one of the brothers in the Six Screens family was saying how he had told on himself for a wrongdoing, and if he hadn't reported himself to the elders never would have known. He was treated like, brother exemplary. He had a Christian conscience, and he went to the elders, and they just fellowshipped him, and he can't sit with his own family at the meetings, and he's going to meeting after meeting, year after year, and he's like, well, what's going on? And his wife eventually left him because in her mind, according to Watchtower, well, he must not be repentant because he's not being reinstated. And then it turns out, he finds out later, oh, well, basically he insulted, quote unquote, a circuit overseer. He kind of pointed out basically where the circuit overseer was being a little too far to the left, just basically an opinion. He wasn't disrespectful, but that guy got in a huff and just basically made it impossible to where this poor brother would never get reinstated. There's so much. That ego is bad enough, but when it's compiled with immaturity and narcissism and, egotism, it's too much. What were you going to say? Somebody's going to say something? Go ahead.
No, that might have been me. I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, because sometimes 2 or 3 people will start to comment and I'm still talking, so I finish my comment and I don't want to be rude, so I'm like, hey, go for it. It's just too much. I just can't believe it. It really, if you think about it, the Watchtower really does seem to attract not very good people. If you have a tendency to be abusive to your wife or to be abusive to children or a pedophile, or if you have, you love to bully people or push other people around, especially if you're a male, I don't mean this in a bad way, but how easy, if you're that kind of person, all I have to do is have the right haircut, the theocratic smile, a few nice suits, a book bag, and do the Watchtower 2-step and play the game, and hey, I'll have all this power and respect, and I can do whatever I want.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'll tell you a very quick story, just in case anybody else wants to comment. You're talking about the circuit overseer. There was a friend of mine, well, I guess he's an ex-friend now, and he had moved to a congregation out of state and had gotten into a big to-do with these elders that were there. And when I heard about it, I called him, and I said, listen, and at that time I was fully teeming. I said, listen, if you're having this kind of issues with the elders, you need to go to another congregation. I said, because they have all the power. You have no power. I said, they will shape the view of the congregation against you. They'll concoct some reason to get rid of you, and then you'll be sitting on the outside looking in with no say-so. So rather than have that happen, because the writing is on the wall, you need to move to another congregation. Well, he was stubborn. Nobody's going to be, telling him what to do and running him away and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And sure enough, they disfellowshipped him. And Anne-Marie, he was disfellowshipped for 18 years. 18 years. For not having done such a thing. Not having done a single thing. Just he sent a stack of letters over that period of time to Watchtower. I'm talking about at least an inch thick over an 18-year period. 18 years, 18. And he even, I think when it started, there were still district overseers. But for sure, a circuit overseer stepped in that he actually personally knew for years. And he said, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm going to get this resolved up and get you reinstated. Circuit overseer came back about 2 weeks later and told him there was nothing that he could do because the letter would just go back to the originating congregation that he was disfellowshipped from. They still felt he was unrepentant, never even told him what he was disfellowshipped for. And I said, well, how can you repent if you don't even know what you were disfellowshipped for? They would tell him, the circuit overseer told him, if I were you, I would just forget this Jehovah stuff. Go and find you a good woman, get married, settle down, and live the rest of your life. That is a true story.
Wow. No, I believe it. I mean, talk about the old theocratic, tyrannical football that keeps getting thrown around to the same asshole team. Sorry, Rick. I'm sorry. If they ever come up with a word that isn't a bad word that fits these people. I'll say that. It is so
Hey, Anne-Marie,
ugly.
Anne-Marie, we're gonna get a virtual swear jar, and then when you drop a bomb, you just put a quarter in the bird jar.
I already owe Rick a ton of money. I try really, really hard, but they're such buttholes. Sorry.
They are.
Sorry, Lord.
They are. They are.
I mean, and it's like, it's bad enough. It's not that they're imperfect. It's that they love it. They love it, and they revel in it.
Mm-hmm. In every congregation,
really,
those
really
elders
do.
view that local congregation as their own little personal fiefdom, that they can do anything that they want to unless a circuit overseer. That was one of the things that I noticed when a circuit overseer came through. Well, that was after that change, because if you remember, the elders were initially appointed by Bethel, by the governing body, I guess. And then they made a change at whatever point. I'm sure somebody who keeps up with this better than me can tell you what year. And then the elders would be chosen and appointed by the circuit overseer. Well, when that happened, then the circuit overseers became the grand poobah, and the elders would quake in their boots every time the circuit overseer came, because he could delete you on the spot. I saw it happen. He could delete you on the spot. And so, but again, he just became the bigger. Now he's the dictator of the individual elders, who are the dictators of the local congregation. So it just kept going that way. And I was like, there's no way that this is an organization that's got God's blessing. There's just no way. No way possible.
That is so beyond messed up.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I can't even say what I want to say because we're on Rick's show. But as soon as I hang up, I'm going to be saying it. I'm going to be dropping bombs all over the place. Those egotistical, tyrannical jerks. Oh, man. Gracious. Guys,
if you, I would imagine that if you could be a fly in that elder's room and hear the craziness that goes on, you would not believe it. You just wouldn't believe it.
It's so sad. When I heard that they already have decided pretty much to disfellowship you before you even have your hearing, I didn't know that. And here those brothers called me before them 2 or 3 times, interrogating me and putting me through hell until I would just start shaking and crying, and they don't care.
No, they don't care. But see, they're told not to pay attention to any kind of an emotional response. The crocodile tears, they are told, should not sway you in any way in the judgment. And that's what makes this whole thing about these judicial meetings so ridiculous, is because they can't tell if you are repentant about anything or not, because they can't read the heart. And they'll tell you that. We can't read your heart. We don't know if you're repentant. Well, then how does this whole process work? This is just ridiculous. This is just like in California, when they had that 3 strikes and you're out. You do something one time, you're privately reproved. Do it again, the same thing again within a reasonable amount of time, you're publicly reproved. You do it again, then you're going to be disfellowshipped. That's pretty much what it just kind of boils down to. Now, if they like you, if they benefit somehow, whether it's financially or whatever, that goes a long way. They're going to be very slow about just booting you out completely because they don't want to lose whatever it is that you may or may not be bringing. But if you're just a regular person, or you're just going in meetings and going out and field service and they don't necessarily get anything from you, or if you've ever done something that they didn't like, because you might have done something or said something that offended them, and they might not have said anything about it, but now you got your neck in the noose in a judicial meeting, and that brother will get himself appointed to that meeting, and they'll drop the hammer on you. I've seen it. I have.
You know what? That makes so much. That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Because, like when my grandmother died, if she had left me a lot of money, which she left my mother, but if she had left me a lot of money and all of a sudden I wasn't the poor little Sister Anne Marie anymore, maybe they would have treated me better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Hello?
Well, I don't know what that was. Hello.
Yeah, hello. This is Rick from. Where did Anne Marie go?
She was
I'm
just
right here.
here, and then all of a sudden some music
No,
plays. I
I'm
don't know.
sorry. I forgot to unmute. I'm so sorry. I have a microphone muter. I'm so sorry, Rick, for eating up in your time. How far off are we?
Why don't we go about another 5 minutes, and then we'll cut it. We'll go with JW World News.
Rick, you are always so very generous, my brother. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, brother, keep talking because it's like everybody who speaks and tells what their story is or what they heard or what they experienced, it's like little pieces keep being added to the overall tapestry of Watchtower and what they really, really, really are like.
Well, part of the thing is it's because for those of us who are born and raised, and we had to deal with that kind of narcissism and craziness all our lives, and we kind of thought it was normal, and that's just, kind of how it is. But the thing you realize when you get older is they call this religion the organization. But the reality is there really isn't a lot of organization. In other words, like you have a Supreme Court, right? Every state has a Supreme Court, then you have the federal. So if you don't feel like you got justice, you can try to get your case heard at a Supreme Court level. But then in the Jehovah's Witness world, there is no place where you can go and get justice if you feel like you were treated unjustly. There's no place that you can really go. You can try to loop in a circuit overseer who 9 times out of 10 is just going to go along with whatever the elders recommend because they don't care. Most of us know in the judicial community you can go and get an appeal, but the appeal 9 times out of 10 is going to go along with the local elders because they're going to want those local elders to go along with them if somebody appeals in their congregation. And then the headquarters, they could care less. You'll hear story after story about a person who wrote letters to the society, and maybe they got a response after the first one or second one. Eventually, you just don't even get a response. And the only thing you might get is something from the circuit overseer, which, again, is just going to back up what the elders say. There's no place else to go. So when you look at it from that perspective, there is no organization. There's no real organization. There's nothing. There's nothing behind the name.
It's almost like elders were in musical chairs. When the music stops, you get whatever elder you get, and that's it.
And that's it. And this is the reason why they can treat you like anything that they want to treat you, because what are you going to do? You're not going. Society is not going to chime in. They could care less. Circuit overseer is not going to do anything. The only time they'll do something is if the elders didn't follow the instructions in the elders manual. So, like, if that's the case, if it's a technicality like that, then they'll say, well, wait a minute. Because I knew of a case where this brother was disfellowshipped on a Thursday. The following Thursday, he was reinstated because they didn't follow the theocratic procedure. The circuit overseer got involved and said, you guys didn't do X, Y, and Z, and so therefore he shouldn't have been in this fellowship, and they had to reinstate with this fellowship for 1 week. So the only time that's going to happen is when it's like a technicality. But outside of that, the elders know they can pretty much do whatever they want because you have no recourse. Nobody's going to step in and do a thing about it. And even if you go to another congregation, your reinstatement is still going to come to them.
Exactly.
And they can deny it. Then they can deny it and play that game. So they know that. That's why it's just like in real life. You never want to be arrested and go and get in the prison system. You never want to do that. So it's the same thing there. You don't want to get disfellowship. So if you ever see something like that, and I told when I was a witness, I told all the witnesses, if you're having issues with that, you need to go to another congregation immediately before anything happens, because once it happens, it still goes back to that congregation.
Exactly. It's really sad, though, too, because before anything really bad happened, I got to a point emotionally where I was so beat down and so discouraged and so depressed, I didn't want to go to the meetings anymore. And this sweetheart sister that I knew from another congregation came to see me, and she said, Anne Marie, my husband and I will come and pick you up. And they lived in another town. They didn't even live where I lived. And she said that she would come and pick me up for the meeting. And so for a while, I was going to her congregation, and I felt relief because I wasn't being picked on, well, at least not as much. Well, anyway, one time the elders asked to meet with me, and I'm like, oh God, not again. I mean, every time I turn around, I have to be chastised by the elders about something. I guess I chewed my gum wrong, or I didn't smile that I should have. I don't know. But these elders actually, these elders were actually quite sweet to me. And I'm like sitting there all like, oh God, what did I do now? And the head elder said, you know, Anne Marie, we've been watching you, and we noticed that you seem to be troubled and we're concerned. I had never in my entire life ever had any elder ask me if I was okay. So I started to quiver a little bit, and I said I had problems, and they're like, well, what's the problem? So stupid me, I can't say anything in 2,000 words or less, right? So I tried to tell them what had happened, and one of the guys stopped me and he said, well, we didn't ask you to tell us your life story. We just want to know what happened. And I thought, if I can't tell you what happened, then I can't tell you. But they said that they were concerned and they would go, and they said they were going to talk to the elders in the other congregation. And then we met again, and they said, well, you know, what the elders decide in your congregation, we can't do anything about, but, you know, if we can be of help to you. They were really, really kind, but I really got the message of just what you said. When your fate has been decided, if they're good people or not good people, if they, you know, you get a bad lawyer or not good lawyer, whatever, that's what you get.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's and the thing about it is you go through all of that mistreatment, and only to find out that this religion is just a man-made construct. It is not the true religion. It is not the truth in any way, shape, or form. And you just think to yourself, I can't believe I endured all of that essentially for no reason.
Well, we were all indoctrinated to believe a lie. The thing is, we weren't stupid. They used very powerful, and, you know, these things work. They use mind control tactics that work, and they have been proven to work. So anyway, we have gone way past the 5 minutes that our dear brother has given us. I want to thank you so much. I enjoyed your story and your talking, and I want to thank you for coming in. I want to thank everyone for coming in. And look forward to hopefully you guys all being on Six Screen Sunday, which is tomorrow. And anyway, just want to turn it back over to our dear brother, Rick, who's going to go do JW World News.
Well, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Very good audience participation. Lots of people coming in tonight. We always like to see that. Well, anyways, this is Rick here at the control panel for the Six Screens. You know, friends, we have a regular network here. We have a number of programs, about 17 different programs that run on this network, most of them by ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is great. And I want to thank all of those people having programs like Anne-Marie, and we've got a number of other people, Linda James, Eric out of Tennessee. And I mean, there's just so many people that have programs on here. We thank them all. We thank them all, Joe and Fran and all of them. And we appreciate their efforts they put forward. They put a lot of time in putting these programs together. And, you know, we love to do it. We've been doing it now for 17 years. We have not missed a Saturday night. We're here every Saturday night because you're here. You rely on this program, and we appreciate anytime you guys call in to the program. That really speaks volumes. So if you guys can do it, muster up the courage and come in and say hello to us on a telephone line. That'd be wonderful. Well, we're going to go to JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we're going to be talking about it tonight. So let me put us into that platform right now. Let me go over there. And let's end this program. This was touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. Stay with us on YouTube. We'll be right back on with JW World News.